Good evening. Today we are going to do a reaction to the MAGA in Congress. It's been a while since Donald Trump has left the scene, so I was kind of curious to figure out, what are the MAGA supporters up to these days? What are they talking about? Maybe they've kind of piped down. Maybe they're just kind of going into maybe kind of a traditional Republican mode where they're going to focus on policy, or are they still talking about the wall? Who knows? I haven't checked them out in a while, but we're going to look at it together and we'll react. But before we do that, let's get Andrew to warm it up. There's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the Yang Gang. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up with. Drew Yang Gang, that's who I hooked up. Yo, there's no place to hide now that he's arrived. I'm saying he ain't playing now with this campaign. Bang, dang, it's and Drew, come roll with the Hello, nerds! Nerds for Humanity. It's been a while since we've done a solo live stream, and I've been working pretty hard. And then the kids are off from school, so they have been very taxing on the nerd father and the nerd mother, even more so. But I wanted to do a stream because it's been a while, and I've been meaning to do a stream about a bunch of topics I haven't gotten around to. So we'll see how many we can get through. I guess it'll depend on if you guys are really up for what I've got. We're for sure going to talk about the Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Kind of get a sense of how these kind of MAGA Congress people are looking at, their representation and what are they talking about. So we'll take a look-see at that stuff. But before we do that, why don't we just see where everybody's coming in from tonight? I am joining you from the San Francisco Peninsula, just about half an hour south of the city of San Francisco. Where are you guys joining from tonight? Go ahead and say hello in the chat. And while we do that, I'm going to get my stuff ready. Oh, Ethan. Is that Iowa? I think that IA is Iowa, right? Yeah. Wow. Very cool. Welcome, Ethan. And let's see who else we've got. New Mexico, Albuquerque. Is that what ABQ? Maybe. So welcome, folks. All right. Let's take a look-see. Yes, I got it right. It is Iowa. Thank you, Ethan. All right. Let's take a look-see. I am hoping. Of course. Look, let's not fool ourselves. We're of course not going to see a bunch of high-minded, dispassionate commentary from MAGA Congress people, and certainly not on Twitter. And we're all guilty of getting fired up and kind of firing each other up on Twitter. But hopefully there's going to be some interesting policy and kind of constructive points of view sprinkled in to what I expect will be a lot of hate on, I was going to say Obama. Are they still hating on Obama? Maybe they are. I know when we were in the election last year, there was all of this talk about how Kamala Harris is just going to be the puppet master. And she's going to run the whole country, on January, 30th. Just a few weeks after the president is sworn in. But I think Biden's been running the show so far. If anything, a lot of Kamala supporters are saying, hey, how come she's not more like, has a clear portfolio of work? But we digress. Let's get into what Lauren Boebert is talking about. So we're going to share and go to her Twitter and see what is on her mind. So hold on a second. All right. Well, that's Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're going to get to Marjorie in a bit. Here we go. Here is Ethan is saying, wait a minute. Are you telling me that after all, Biden is not a radical socialist? Yeah, turns out he's a centrist, if anything. Like him or not, that's what you get with Joe Biden. I think that's what the Democratic voters wanted. So, all right. So this is Lauren Boebert. And if you all are not familiar, she is a congressperson from Colorado. And I think she was kind of her claim to fame is I believe she might be sympathetic to QAnon, or is that Marjorie Taylor Greene, or maybe both of them. But let's just see what she's talking about, because who knows? Like, I don't know. Let's keep an open mind. Maybe there's going to be something constructive here, because if her position is, hey, she wants less government spending, smaller government, and, dispassionate and equal application of the law, kind of like a traditional Republican, then maybe, maybe it's not the end of the world. So we'll see. Okay. Ethan wants to know which one is the space laser. I don't think she's the space laser. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene might be space laser, but we'll see. All right, so Lauren Boebert for Congress account, owner of Shooter's Grill. Well, there you go. That's a great name. So she's definitely, she clearly is very big on the Second Amendment. Her profile kind of, what do you call that top banner image on your profile? I can't even think of the name. It's late. But that is a picture of midsection, I presume, of Congressman Boebert, and a holster and a pistol, and then a hat with the number 45, which I would imagine would be the 45th president, Donald J. Trump. So let's see. I'm the mom. Okay, I'm the mom who told Beto, hell no, you're not taking our guns. So right off the bat, I think this is quite common with the MAGA Congress people. It's very much a ideology of like, I'm going to push back on this other kind of agenda. So I'm very much a I'm against them type person. So in this case, she's very much against Beto trying to take our guns. And then let's see what she has pinned. The Democrats are fearful of me because they know their radical agenda won't get by me. So again, it's very much a I'm against the other side. I'm here to stand in the way of disasters like H.R. 127 and the likes of it. H.R. 127. Let me make sure I am tracking what she's talking about. H.R. 127. Okay. joint resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution. Oh my God. In 1866. Huh? No. Is that what she's against? How can that be? No. That can't be what she's talking about. H.R. 127. Oh my God. No. Okay. Disasters like H.R. 127. It looks like H.R. 127 was an amendment. Isn't this the 14th Amendment? Giving blacks the right to vote? Huh. No. I can't imagine. No. See, here we go. HR. That's really creepy. I'm not sure why that came up. That's really weird. Yeah, so HR 127 is not that's not what she's talking about. In fairness, she's talking about this one, which is a Firearm Licensing and Registration Act. Okay, yes. So, yeah, so let's see. She's against this act, which says what? Oh, that you have to register your guns, basically. Yeah, and that there's a database of gun registrations, kind of like VIN numbers for cars and car registration, I would imagine. Yeah. Okay, so she's not down with the licensing. So that's what she means. She should probably be clearer. That is so weird that when you search for HR 127, you can get two different ones. That is so nutty. Jesus. Was it really called also HR 127? Huh. Go figure. All right. So back to Lauren. So she's definitely not down with gun registration. Ender Buckley is helping me understand. Basically, the HR count resets, and it's a very odd and creepy coincidence that Lauren Boebert is against HR 127, the gun law, not HR 127, the 14th Amendment. Okay, so then she is looking to raise money. Understandable. And then she says, okay, here, 4 hours ago, the bottom line is this. For the Swamp Act, known as H.R. 1, would end American elections as we know it. No, I don't want to relaunch. This bill is a Democrat dream to ensure that they never lose an election and can codify voter fraud forevermore. Oh, H.R. 1. Okay, let's see what this H.R. 1 business is. H.R. 1. No, not H.R. 127. Here we go. For the People Act. Let's see what Lauren Boebert is so worked up about. Okay, there's 3 sections about voting, campaign finance, and ethics. Promoting internet registration. Oh, so the ability to register to vote the same way that you would register to get a mortgage or go on a trip or buy life insurance or whatever. Like basically online registration. Now I'm provision of prohibiting a state from requiring applicants to provide more than last 4 digits of social. So this is where I can understand why some of the MAGA folks are uncomfortable, because obviously you don't want people who aren't eligible to vote to register. On the other hand, you don't want to make it so hard to register that people who have a right to vote can't vote. So there's this balancing act. But I would agree that you should be able to register online. Maybe we can disagree over the requirements, but it should be as easy to register to vote as it is to get a mortgage for a house, or get life insurance, or pay your taxes. Like, you don't have to necessarily do all of those things like in triplicate in person. Then there's the automatic voter registration, which I'm guessing is probably comes from the DMV, because I know in California when you get your driver's license, you can quickly hey, thanks for all the likes, by the way. You can quickly register to vote. So this is another one where I think the more people who are legitimately eligible to vote get registered easily, like, that seems to me to be like the definition of democracy. So Dinesh is saying the more people voting is bad for GOP. Yeah, I could see that. On the other hand, there has to be some reasonable screening, right? So, but you would think we could come up with a compromise. I don't know. But obviously, this is not the environment for compromise, or hasn't been. But maybe old Biden can introduce a little bit more compromise. Then there's same-day voter registration, conditions on removal, prohibiting interference. Yeah. Wow, you can even accept applications of individuals under 18, I guess, so that they can like pre-register. So yeah, so this is all about making it easy. It sounds like this is all about making it easier for people to register. And I don't know if I would agree with Congressman or Congressperson Boebert and I wouldn't call this for the Swamp Act. I mean, if anything, you could make the argument that, hey, this is potentially introducing a lot of duplicate or fraudulent registrations. Like, you could make that argument. I don't know if it's for the Swamp Act. I mean, you could say the Trump administration had plenty of industry lobbyists and kind of slimy characters. I don't know if that's a unique thing to the Democratic Party. But at any rate, she's not down with it. And she believes that if more people are registered, the Democrats will never lose another election. There you go. Okay. Then she says, it's going to take strong Republicans like myself to oppose this borderline treasonous legislation. Donate so I can fight this insanity head on. Okay. Then another thing about for the Swamp Act. We'll make permanent law out of the mail-in ballots that we saw turn the 2020 election into an absolute mess. Well, this is 4 hours ago. Hold on. This is 4 hours ago, so she's still kind of insinuating that the 2020 election, I mean, I would argue it was a mess because the guy who lost kept making stuff up. And she's saying, hey, the new norm will be waiting days for elections to be called. Well, if you have to count all the votes, and it may not happen in a few hours, I don't know. And then there's all this talk about the mail-in fraud. The thing about the mail-in fraud allegations is why, if there was so much fraud and all these dead people voting and dogs voting and cats voting, like why didn't they bring any of that evidence into the impeachment trial to justify the insurrection? Remember there were like Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, they said they had all these experts about computer software that was like changing the votes from Trump to Biden, and they said they were going to bring all of these, they had these people all sign affidavits and everything, and but then they never showed up in court. 50, I think it was like 57 cases. But of course their biggest case was the impeachment. They had like I think 16 hours eligible to bring as much evidence as they wanted, but they didn't bring a shred of evidence about the so-called stolen election. But at any rate, so she's still kind of banging that drum. And then Twitter wants me to follow Jim Jordan and Kevin Sorbo. Maybe another time. Let's see. Then there's if Democrat lawmakers, I feel like the MAGA and the Republicans, they really love to do the name calling, right? It's like, was it they called a bill for the Swamp Act? Democrat lawmakers, like the Democratic Party refers to itself as the Democratic Party. When you purposely change their name to make them sound more sinister, I don't know. Seems kind of childish, but anyway. If Democrat lawmakers thought for a minute that their security will have to follow their insane gun laws, they'd be even more in favor of protecting the Second Amendment than I am, if that's even possible. Whoa, let me see if I can parse that. I'm not sure I'm tracking Congressman Boebert here. Wait, let me just read this. Make sure everybody can see this. If Democrat lawmakers thought for a minute that their security would have to follow their insane gun laws, they'd be even more in favor of protecting the Second Amendment than I am, if that's even possible. Okay, so I think her argument is that the Democratic Party lawmakers rely on Capitol security and Secret Service, and I think she's saying, hey, meanwhile, they have H.R. 127 that requires everybody to register a gun. But I would imagine the Secret Service probably already keeps records of who has what guns. And I'm guessing they probably require the police to have training and be in good standing. So I actually think the Democratic lawmakers' security does follow the insane gun laws. So I don't know if that's true. Any rate, but so she's definitely the Second Amendment stuff is definitely Lauren Boebert's like part of her brand. That, and it looks like Stop the Steal, because look, it says fraud-prone ballot harvesting would be made legal nationwide in caps under the For the Swamp Act. You can say goodbye to fair elections once and for all if this disaster of a bill were to become law. This reminds me of the Affordable Care Act. Remember when they were talking about the Affordable Care Act and people were like, oh, the death panels, it's a complete disaster. And the whole country, every hospital, and every doctor is going to quit. And, I don't remember any of that really happening. And they said, oh, if Biden wins, the day after the election, you're never going to hear about COVID. It's all a hoax. COVID. And yeah, I agree with VMOS. I mean, it does feel like she's just kind of making things up. But I do think that her message is resonating because you look, I mean, she says this stuff and, 7,000 people like it, 3,000 people retweet it. What are the comments like on this kind of stuff? Let's see. See what people are saying. My representative, what insane gun laws are you talking about? Democrats have guns. Military should be the only ones with assault rifles. These replies seem quite reasonable. As a Colorado resident, I fully support you. Keep fighting, Lauren. I don't understand. If you are such a badass and you love guns in America, why didn't you enlist? Or are you afraid of paper targets that actually shoot back? Ooh. What is Lauren so scared of that causes this obsession with firearms? Has the FBI paid your visit yet? If not, they will come soon. Newsflash, no one is taking away your... Okay, so basically, I think her Twitter has a lot of people kind of clapping back, I think is the term, or retorting. But I don't think she cares. I think she's still... I think when people attack her, some people are more likely to give her money because they're going to feel like, hey, don't pick on the Second Amendment loving real American, snowflakes trying to register all our weapons. Any rate, so then she says she retweeted defense of the Second Amendment with a savage backdrop. Okay, so this is her talking about the Second Amendment. My God, looks like a couple of assault rifles. Is there a shotgun laying on top of books? And then a pistol. Now, I might be a little old-fashioned, but when I took my gun safety class, they talked about proper storage of guns. And I think she's a mom, but I'm guessing this must be like in her congressional office, in which case it's like, wow. Maybe she just put it out there for kind of a decorative approach. But let's see what she talks about. Let's go back to her statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. An in-person committee hearing would solve a lot of the issues that we're seeing today. Mr. Chairman, we all took an oath to uphold and secure the Constitution, every single one of us. Our first act as members of Congress was to take our oath of office. And please allow me to remind you a portion of that oath. The chair and every other member here solemnly swore that we would support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The Second Amendment is very much...
That's very interesting. Everybody swore to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And then on January 6th, a bunch of MAGA people broke in to the Capitol by force during the ratification of a presidential election. And then when that losing candidate had an opportunity to present all of the evidence of said stolen election, they argued that it was a technicality that he can't be impeached because he's no longer in office. So I always find it interesting that people like to kind of use the word Constitution and use the word democracy and republic and all this kind of stuff. But then, like, when the time comes to actually stand for something, it's always like, well, if it helps my political career, then I'll look the other way, kind of thing. But anyway, let's see what she says.
Much a part of the Constitution of the United States. And so it doesn't matter how you feel, how you classify it. This is an enumerated right that American citizens have. to keep and bear arms. Maybe some of you need to be reminded the Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. I know you don't like those words, necessary, security. Excuse me, I actually take those.
Wow, that's kind of a bit aggressive. She's basically saying that anybody who doesn't agree with her doesn't like the words necessary or security. So, like, anyone who's for any kind of gun regulation is somehow anti-security and anti-freedom, and I'm guessing she's going to argue anti-American. You know, there is a middle ground, which is everyone should have the right to bear arms within reason. You know, just within reason. Like, does everybody need like a, you know, should people have a right to like an Apache helicopter behind their house? You know, like, do you need a 50 cal on your roof? I don't know. I mean, I see she likes the assault rifles, and that's great. And she's got a shotgun, that's fine. But why not just register it? I mean, why not just require that you take a gun safety class? You know, why not require that if you know, have been found guilty of like a violent act that you lose your privilege? This is also like the First Amendment says free speech, but it doesn't mean that you can engage in libel or defamation or hate speech or, you know, shout fire in a crowded theater, right? Like, just, yeah, we're all for Second Amendment, fine, sure. I'm a gun owner, but I don't believe that, you know, I need a fully automatic, like, saw machine gun, right? But let's see what she says.
Words back. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That ends in a period. There's no semicolon to follow that. There are no examples on when government can restrict these rights. So any clever.
Yeah, but you know, I don't think the Constitution was written. I mean, it was in fact it was written to be amended to be a living document. And in the First Amendment, they don't talk about libel, they don't talk about hate speech, they don't talk about, you know, threatening people, inciting violence. But you can't do that, right? So I think if anyone expects a 200-year-old document to lay out every example of what's reasonable, then we're basically not going to have much of a government. We're going to basically have an 18th century government in the 21st century. But it's a you know, I think it's a compelling argument to say, hey, you know, the Constitution doesn't say that there should be any limits on arms. But then, like, if you take that to its logical extreme, just to test the argument, then, like, why can't I have a nuclear missile in my backyard? Isn't that an arm? Doesn't the Constitution protect my right to bear those arms?
Proposition that comes after that is an infringement on our constitutional rights. As you've heard, other committees are not taking up similar rules. I also sit on the budget committee, and there's not a rule banning firearms from the hearing or conference rooms. How do you plan to enforce this, Mr. Chair? If there's no enforcement measures here, why have the rule? Will there be metal detectors installed outside the committee hearing doors? What is the procedure for delaying a vote as members get screened? Who is going to pay for these new metal detectors and increase?
All right, so she's very concerned about metal detectors being introduced into government buildings. I don't know. I don't know why you're so against the U.S. Congress being basically a gun-free zone. Why do you need a gun in the most sort of sacred place for democracy? Now, I guess you could, if anything, you could argue now we may have an argument for beefier security, but I don't know if that would end well if every congressperson, was able to kind of pack heat as they were voting and debating each other. Um, Seems like it would be not necessary, but it does, I get it. It does seem like a natural kind of wedge issue, right? Like, hey, I'm for guns. I want the right to bring my gun wherever the heck I want. I should be able to bring it into my kid's school if I want to. I think that's she's taking a very kind of purist position on this one.
Security. Mr. Chairman, will you pay for this or will the taxpayers cover these expenses? I would like to request at this time personal security detail that the chairman pays for himself for every time I step into the committee room. If this is passed, the chairman is trying to take responsibility for my personal safety while stripping away my Second Amendment rights.
All right. So I think that's Boebert on Second Amendment. Who says this is storage? These are ready to use. Okay. So this is her basically responding to criticism, saying that's not a proper way to store a gun. And then she's like, oh, I'm going to own you, lib. They're ready to use. You take these from my dead hands, right? Or whatever. So she's definitely big, strong, powerful gun owner. Then she says, for the Swamp Act will create a 6-to-1 matching system for individual campaign donations. Oh, I actually think this is a great idea if that's what they're doing. Someone says they like politicians, the government will spend an additional $1,200 towards this campaign. Okay, so this is an interesting argument. I believe she's talking about what I'm guessing is a provision in the Voter Registration Act to provide matching funds for individual campaign donations, which ironically would probably be in a lot of MAGA supporters' interest, because if a lot of MAGA supporters are not super wealthy, why should their voice be less heard than some billionaire casino owner or a hedge fund manager or whatever? Now she's making the argument that, oh no, you shouldn't support this because someone who slept with a Chinese spy will get matched. And I guess what I would argue is, well, everybody who donates gets matched. Whether you give to the Chinese spy, you give to the QAnon sort of, pedophile conspiracy theorists, like everybody who is a recipient of a political donation would get matched. And I think the idea behind it is to kind of offset the excessive influence of people who write, multi-$1,000 checks. So far, Lauren Boebert is against easier voter registration and also against campaign financing reform that tries to give bigger influence to small donors. All right. Then she's saying today we're discussing H.R. 1, which she's calling for the Swamp Act. So she's definitely taking the Trump tack of coming up with sort of dismissive names for anything that she doesn't agree with. I don't think a lot of us who are skeptical of the MAGA voter and the MAGA kind of movement would come up with disparaging names for like the Second Amendment, and I won't even go there. That is like in general one of the things I've noticed about at least Lauren Boebert on Twitter is not a very respectful kind of dialogue. It's very much like schoolyard kind of ha 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 kind of they're such idiots approach. And you just wish there was a little bit more middle ground in our congressional representation. Let's see. Less than 9% of funding in the COVID stimulus bill actually goes to public health spending. Why don't we address the problems at hand and let them debate their liberal agenda on its merits? So I think most of the COVID stimulus bill is actually towards cash relief, unemployment insurance, basically helping out people who've been really hurt by this pandemic. It's true that I'm not surprised that 9% of it, or only 9% of it, is going to sort of direct medical relief. But I think, or public health spending, I think the bigger issue is people who lost their jobs, who are losing hours, and are really struggling to make ends meet. But I think in her, what I would have liked to see is if Lauren said, okay, and of the 91% that's being spent elsewhere, I don't support any of that, right? So she's very kind of clever here, saying, hey, only 9% is going towards public health spending. But let's take a look. COVID stimulus bills. Let's see, the one under Biden. Where is the breakdown of the bill? Is there not a pie chart in the House? Come on. It's a long article. Okay, let's see, find another one. There we go. Here's what's in the Biden bill. All right. You've got $1,400 check for every eligible recipient. The money would be in addition to the $600 that were approved in December, for a total of $2,000. Unemployment aid, $400 a week. Rental assistance and eviction moratorium. Food insecurity help. Child tax credits. Subsidy for health insurance. Emergency paid leave. $15 billion for small businesses. $350 billion for state governments to distribute the vaccine, increase testing, reopen schools, and maintain vital services. $20 billion for national vaccination program, and a $15 an hour minimum wage. So, when you read what's in the bill, you're like, well, unemployment insurance, direct cash relief, help for states to get the vaccinations out. It doesn't sound that bad. But then when you read her tweet, like if you only were following her and you're one of her constituents, you're like, what the hell? 9%, only 9% is going to public health. What the hell is the rest going to? Is it going to, gender studies in Pakistan? No. It's going to help hard-working Americans make it through this crisis. Any rate, VMAS says, by the way, if you do the math, 9% of 1.9 trillion is almost 200 billion. So 200 billion to public health doesn't sound like chicken scraps, right? All right, so that's Lauren Boebert. Now let's jump over, because I know it's getting late, to Marjorie Taylor Greene. And before I do that, let me just recommend that you like and share this stream so more people can discover it, especially so our East Coast buddies can pick this up tomorrow. But in the meantime, let's look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I presume is going to be a little bit even more out there. But let's see what she has to say. Like, I don't want to hear people say, people have said, oh, she talks about space lasers and blah, blah, blah. But let's see. I mean, I think she might have found, had a little bit of reflection. And now that she's in Congress, she's probably going to be, I presume, a little bit more kind of, take things more seriously and be a little bit more thoughtful. But before we do that, we want to thank people who make this channel possible, which are our channel members. And all the money that we get for this channel does not go to my pocket. It goes right back into the channel to invest in the streaming technology we're using right now, the podcast hosting, software licensing for like video editing tools, all that kind of stuff. And then we also use it for promoting the channel so that we can grow the audience, which then helps us attract more guests on the weekends, kind of higher profile guests. So let me just thank some of the folks who make this happen. And we will start. I believe we do not have an EVP level. Oh, so if you're watching this and you're like, I like the Nerds channel, and I want to support them, please consider doing that because we don't have an EVP level. That is a pretty hefty level. It's like $100 a month, but it would go a long way, and certainly we'd all definitely appreciate it. But we do have VPs in the house. So let's look at our VPs. And we'll sort by the oldies. We've got VLAM, JM, SAP, Fat Lamb, Kristen Slevin, who was an EVP for over a year. So thank you, Kristen, for all your support. Soldier One, Laura Lane, Patrick Dunn, Bike. Oh, Bike is a new upgrade. Bike just recently upgraded to VP. Thank you, Bike. Appreciate that, man. Hold on a second. Okay. Mindful Skeptics, Boyce. Love it. All right. Then we have our hardcore. Mike, Chang, Gene Lim, David, Tracy, DK, Phoenix, Jeckalego, Kirsch, Mr. History Fan, Byram Hess, Moda Burton, Susan, Yang, Tony, Robert, Dean, Statner, Galessa, Jalacia, Jay Perrin, Annalisa, and Jay Bryan. So thank you to our hardcore nerds. And we also have our verified nerds. Helen, Lisa, Sugar, Albert, Brandon, Yes, Brian, Peter, Arez, Your Mammon, Sophia, Jedwiga, Gail, Shake and Make, Mike, Doris, Emerald, Nell, Lori, Ben, Roger, Lisa, Christina, Vaughn, Rasta, Richard, Ryan, Jessica, James, Jalopy, Emma, Spirited, Hui, Stephen, Ira, Shoni, Spy, Philip, Jameson, Dr. A, William, Karen, Monica, Ender the Third, Alex, Ardent, Mai, Semery, Brittany, and Clyde. And who? Oh, somebody just gave me a down vote. Somebody gave me a down, thumbs down. If you're enjoying this stream, please, thumbs up. Refute that down vote. Terrible. All right. And who are, yes, somebody just gave a thumbs up. Appreciate that. Okay. So our newest members are Clyde Clark, Brittany Crosby, Semery, Lorenko, and Jay Bryan, and Ardent, and Mai, all less than 30 days old. All right. So thank you for supporting. Earl's like, there's haters in the chat. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go back to reacting to the MAGA Congress people. Because, look, I'll be straight with you all. I am not a MAGA person. Don't really support the president, former president at all. Found him deplorable. Found a lot of the things he did to be extremely destructive, disgraceful, just unprecedented, and quite beneath the dignity of the office. But let's see if we can, for a second, just take an open mind. And here you have Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is from the great state of Georgia. And let's see what she stands for. So she is Christian, wife, mom, small business owner, proud American. So right off the bat, it's like, I guess the argument there is like, oh, well, all those Democrats, they hate America. I'm a Democrat. I love America. This place is awesome. 100% pro-life. Okay. Very clear there. Not 100% pro-gun. Not 100% pro-Trump. Likes equal endorsements. I think she means to say don't equal. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's okay. Got you. All right. So let's see. Then it's suggesting that I follow Twitter's. The great liberal Twitter conspiracy is trying to get me to follow Matt Gaetz and Cobb County GOP. Marjorie Taylor Greene, retweet if you still have at real Donald Trump's back. Ooh, account suspended. No, not going to retweet that one. But clearly, she's definitely kind of wrapping herself in the MAGA flag. Now, 2 hours ago, she said the Supreme Court needs to take my friend Laura Loomer's case. She has been one of the most canceled women in America. She was the only 2020 Republican political candidate in the country who was denied access to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and PayPal. Laura Loomer. And then it's an article linked on Breitbart. Laura Loomer. I've never even heard of Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer. American journalist. Okay. Who is this person? Laura Loomer. Let's see here. Lawsuits. Okay, so she's suing a bunch of the tech companies. She was represented by right-wing activist lawyer, free speech. Well, what did she actually say? Promoted various conspiracy theories related to mass shootings. She claimed that the school shootings in February 2018 in Parkland and in Santa Fe, Texas were staged. Okay. And the perpetrator of the 2017 Vegas shooting was ISIS. And she claimed on Twitter that crisis actors were used for the Santa Fe school shooting. All right. She seems a little out there. Now, there's still a question of like, well, there are a lot of people that are out there. Should they be, banned from everything? If someone talks about all this crazy conspiracy stuff, that's a harder one. But yeah, that's what Marjorie Taylor is talking about. She wants her friend Laura Loomer, her friend who thinks that all of the school shootings were staged and the Vegas one was done by ISIS. Then she says that Joe Biden in the White House is a national security threat. He's compromised and not fit for office. Text impeach. It is interesting how all of a sudden Marjorie Taylor Greene and a lot of the MAGA folks are so concerned about the Muslim minority in China. Like, I think they should stand up for the rights of any oppressed minority. But I've never known, because it's interesting. If you look at the juxtaposition, you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about Laura Loomer, who has a bunch of conspiracy theories about false flag bombing attempts and anti-Muslim hate groups. Let's see. Yeah, she goes after. Okay, on November 1, the day after the terrorist attack in New York City, November 1, 2017, Loomer tweeted that she was late to a conference because she could not find a non-Muslim cab. After it became known that the attack was a former driver for Uber, she called for the creation of a new ride-sharing company that did not employ Muslims. Her day-long tweet storm blamed all Muslims for activities of radical Islamists. Subsequently, Uber announced that she had violated their guidelines. So this Laura Loomer is not a big fan, it would appear, of any Muslim. But interestingly enough, if Biden is saying something that is potentially just sort of soft on China's treatment of Muslims, then suddenly, I guess Marjorie Taylor Greene is ready to join like the Islamist Defense League, which is just so weird. It's such it's so situational, right? It's like, well, I'm going to go after all of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and PayPal because they're attacking my friend Laura Loomer, who I would assume hates Muslims. But she's my friend, and but she won't ride in an Uber because it might be driven by a Muslim. But then if Joe Biden is saying something that is dismissive of the Chinese policy against Uyghurs, well, then that's an impeachable offense. I don't know, like maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene should introduce legislation to enact new tariffs and sanctions on China for the treatment of the Uyghurs. I would be supportive of that. But my sense, I don't know if Marjorie Taylor Greene really cares deeply about the Uyghurs. I think she is more kind of supportive of the just trying to make Biden look bad. But maybe she really does care about the Uyghurs. Like, we shouldn't assume that Marjorie Taylor Greene is not supportive of Muslim kind of minority rights. But I don't know. It doesn't seem to fit like her support of her friend Laura Loomer. The fact that these two tweets are right next to each other is just introducing all kinds of cognitive dissonance. What else is there? Let's see. Oh, so HR 127, the gun registration stuff. I've introduced the Gun Owner Privacy Act that prohibits their gun control scheme. Okay, well, this is where I will give Marjorie Taylor Greene some credit, because at least she's proposing alternatives, whereas the Lauren Boebert was just talking about like, oh, you know, look at my bookshelf. Whereas at least Marjorie Taylor Greene, like, I'm probably not a big fan of what she's proposing, but at least she's got like, let's see, pro-gun legislation ensures gun ownership is not monitored and logged. Legal recourse, you know, the right to keep and bear arms is a God-given right. I don't know if God gave that right, but I don't remember that being in the Bible. But maybe it is. Who knows? A lot of stuff in the Old Testament for sure. Protected by a constitution. This legislation is okay. So, you know, good for her. At least she's trying. You know, I probably don't agree with her, but at least she's got policy now. What else is she talking about? America first. Hashtag America first. If you try to purge Trumpism from the GOP, the base of our party will reject you. America first is the future. Wow. That's the thing. You could be for America, and you could want America's interests to be prioritized first. And that doesn't mean that you're for everything that Trump was for. You know? America first doesn't need to be America hateful against minorities or America, you know, hateful of all international organizations. Like, you could be America first, but positive and constructive America first. But I think, you know, if you read this, it's like, no. If you're not with us, then you're against us. And then the last thing is America's working families should know that Pelosi have never paused in their work that forces you to stay home. Where San Francisco school children of color and poor have suffered the most under Pelosi's sick, tyrannical policies. The San Francisco school children are under the jurisdiction of the city of San Francisco. I don't think Pelosi, as the Speaker of the House, governs the city of San Francisco. But yeah. But then why is the Boebert so against? She was the one that was, maybe Boebert and Greene don't agree, because Boebert was the one that was saying, hey, what does she call it? Destructive liberal agenda. So, remember we went over this. This quote unquote destructive liberal agenda, I mean, we're talking about providing for unemployment insurance and aid to states to increase vaccinations and aid to states to reopen schools in a safe way. So I don't know how those two line up. Like, when the Democrats are trying to push a $2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, and then Taylor Greene's like, no, they're not doing anything for anybody. And then Lauren Boebert is saying, oh, only 9% of the $2 trillion is going to public health. I don't know. I mean, what do you want? Like, do you want them to do something? Then stop saying they're not doing anything. And if you don't want them to do anything, then stop saying they don't do anything. They can't. Oh, look, she's even saying here, reopen our schools. Well, the stimulus plan, the bill, includes money to help states reopen schools safely. So you would think, like, we all agree. We all want to reopen schools. We just want to do it safely. We all support the Second Amendment. We want to do it within reason. There has to be balance. I don't know. Anyway. And then there's anti-union stuff. Teachers' unions are wolves in sheep's clothing, claiming to love and care for children. Their refusal to get back to work is destroying children's education and lives. I don't know, man. If I were a teacher or my spouse was a teacher, I would certainly want to be make sure the classes were much smaller, like ventilation, mask requirements, weekly testing. You can't just send them back in there. I mean, it's easy for us to say, yeah, teachers should work, get back to work, but we're not the ones going into those classrooms with a bunch of kids carrying all the germs and everything. At least give the teachers a little bit of like some protection and some mitigations, right? So, any rate, look, it's getting late. It's 10:30 p.m. Pacific, and I think I will do a quick Ask Me Anything. So if you have any questions, ooh, we got a super chat from Marcus. Yeah, baby. Love it. Hey, how come my little thing didn't, there was supposed to be a little widget. No, it didn't work, but let me highlight it. Marcus with the super chat. Thank you, Marcus. All right, so let's do an Ask Me Anything. And while you guys are putting questions in the chat for me, whatever you want, ask me whatever you want, whatever topic you want, I'm down. Let me also do a little bit of a shout out to the ofthepeople.us project, which is my baby, one of my volunteer efforts. So here it is. Whoopsie daisy. All right. Look at that beautiful website. So this is a all volunteer effort. And basically the idea is we want more people running for office, more competition. Don't really care if you're MAGA or you're Yang or you're, of course, I'm Yang Gang, so I would love to see more Yang people. But the main thing, oh, shit. Marcus had another one. Good to see you, bro. NFY is the OG of the Yang Gang. Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, I remember you from the old days. I think I haven't seen you in a while, though, so welcome back. And if you have been in the Nerd Zone recently and I just haven't caught you, my apologies. But regardless, welcome back. All right. So, ofthepeople.us. Go check it out. And basically, here's some stats. 80% of the U.S. Congress, they held local positions prior. So basically, running for local office is like the NCAA, and maybe Congress is like the NFL or something. And so the idea here is like, well, shoot, let's get more great people running for local office, and then someday the best of the best will end up going to Congress, and they will be another voice. So clearly we have voices from right now, Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Maybe we can have other voices that are maybe more thoughtful, in my opinion, but, whatever. Let's just have more competition, right? So if you're running for office, you can get listed on Of the People, like Allie, Erica, Eric, Amy, Yenny, Ryan, I think Adriana. Yeah, then I've got a test account here. So, and then if anybody wants to know more about them, like let's say Yenny, who's actually going to be on the Nerd Show this weekend, you can learn about her. She's in Worcester, Massachusetts. It's at a crossroads, talks about her experience, yada, yada. Then you can see all of these like tags. So you can see here, I can click on this. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go back. Sorry. If I click on this, it'll go to her. Oh, maybe if I click on here. If I click on this, it should filter. Yes, there we go. It works. It filters the two OTP candidates who have the LGBTQ plus tag. But if I said, oh, I'm really interested in, let's say, Arizona, you can click on that one. Oh, that's not. must be a bug there. Hold on a second. Arizona, yeah. Then I got Ryan Stark. And then if I click on Ryan's thing, I can see his beautiful picture, but I can also see his bio, a little bit about him, why he's running. And then what we'll be adding later is links to go to their website, to donate to them, follow them on social, yada, yada. So of the people, it's kind of like, think of it as like a Yelp for local candidates. All right. So let's see if there are any questions for moi from Jennifer Montgomery. What is my favorite color? It is blue. Blue right here. My wife likes it when I wear red and orange, but I like blue. Let's see. Oh, those are the only questions. All right. All right. All right. You guys are all good. I feel you, man. It's late. I don't blame you. All right. So I think some closing thoughts. Let me tell you some shows that are coming up this weekend. So on Saturday, we will be having Yenny Desroches, who was the OTP candidate from Worcester that I just actually showed you on the OTP website. She's going to be on the show. So, by the way, if you're running for local office and you create an OTP profile, which is free, you get priority guest privileges on Nerds for Humanity. And then on Sunday, I have Mayor Bird. Let's see. Where is Mayor Bird from? Twitter/Mayor Bird. Mayor Bird is the youngest black mayor in the U.S. Cool. From Greenbelt, Maryland. He will be on the Nerds for Humanity live stream on Sunday. So we've got Yenny on Saturday and Colin Bird on Sunday. So there you go. And let's see if there's any more questions before we wrap up. Jennifer says that my wife has good taste. You know, she does. She's very stylish and has way more fashion sense than I do. Engaging life's moments. What about my question? Let me see if I can find your question, engaging life moments. Oh, how do I feel about Trump's eulogy of Rush Limbaugh? Well, I did not see the eulogy, but I did see that Trump gave Rush Limbaugh the Congressional Medal of Honor, which I believe is the highest honor a civilian can receive from the president. What will I say about Rush Limbaugh? I'll tell you guys a little bit of a secret. I used to be a pretty hardcore Republican in the 90s. And maybe that's why I kind of have some empathy for some of the MAGA people, because I get a little bit of it, like the frustration about being kind of imposed upon by, like, you know, some kind of left of you kind of political people. So I get that. And so for me, I remember from time to time listening to Rush on the radio. But I will say this, I feel like if you look at the totality of his work, I think he really contributed to the polarization of the country, much like Trump. And because of that, I'm sure Trump said great things about Rush, but that doesn't shock me at all because, you know, that's, you know, Rush and Trump, they're kind of like two peas in a pod, right? So, at any rate, did you catch the Perseverance landing? No, I didn't. I did not. I was at work. Maybe I should have. But I think it's just freaking amazing. And I do wonder, like, man, how crazy would it be if in that live video stream we saw something. That would just be crazy. My son was saying, "Oh, could it be that there's a civilization living underneath the surface of Mars, and the outer part looks desolate?" And I was like, "Oh, it's kind of like Lost, like an underground bunker." So yeah, it just makes you. I mean, it's pretty impressive that man has been able to achieve these kind of engineering feats. Um, we could put a robot on Mars, but we can't find a way to provide basic health insurance to every citizen. That's just kind of nutty. But, there you go. Let's see if there's any other questions before I wrap up. Oh, Ira is saying, I think I saw something on social media from a right wing network spouting misinformation like that. If you want Tom to answer that, you need to add. Yeah, if you guys have questions for me that I missed, go ahead and just put cap question colon or cap so I can just see it in the chat easily. Mr. History Fan, it makes sense for the USA to pay for the fees of WHO. I heard that Trump. Yeah, the Trump administration pulled out of the World Health Organization. I mean, I feel like Trump just was not down with any kind of international organizations. And, he's not down with NATO, he's not down with WHO. But we kind of live in a connected world. So I feel like America can actually have more influence and be a force for greater good to the extent that it's more engaged in the international community. And if not, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if people are really concerned about China being an adversary and being an economic competitor, if the US, if we just kind of like retreat and kind of only kind of look inward, the rest of the world, will be influenced and will kind of move on without us. So I think we want to be part of that. I think we want to be at the front of that pack, in my opinion. Any rate, let's see. Okay, I think there's a lively chat debate going on between folks. So that's all cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna say good night, nerds. But before you go, please remember to like and share. And if you're on Twitter, follow me at nerds for. Ooh, I'm out of focus. Oh, there we go. That's a cool trick. Oh, Daniel Manning has a question. Do you think China is humane to its citizens? And how about Uyghur Muslims? I think China does not provide its citizens with nearly as much freedom as most other countries, and certainly not as much as we do here. And I think their treatment of any minorities, but particularly the Muslim minorities, has been extreme and, in my opinion, deplorable. And I feel like the U.S. should stand up and say something. But, they have been doing shit to the Muslims for years, and Trump said nothing. And now Biden's trying to, he's trying to balance, right? Like, China's a huge trading partner. China is a huge potential partner to combat climate change. China will need to be a huge partner on international health and pandemic prevention. So I think Biden's in a tough spot. He's got to pick his battles, right? But I mean, my family's from Hong Kong, and they were exiled from China in 1946. So there's not a lot of love for the Chinese Communist Party from my family. But to answer your question, I don't think that China is known for treating its citizens with a ton of freedom. And I think it's minorities are even worse off. All right. Well, Daniel Manning saying, yeah, but the Nazis would have been huge trading partners too. Well, that's a fair point. And that's why. But then the question is for Americans, are we willing to pay more for stuff? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Like, if you want to, take the high road and you say, hey, I don't support what the Chinese are doing to the Muslim minorities, and I'm gonna really push back and sanction the crap out of China, then we just got to be ready to pay like 3-4x for our TVs and for our toys and everything, because you know where it's made, right? It's not made often in Switzerland and Germany and the US. A lot of stuff is made in China. And so I agree with you, Daniel. It's an ethical issue, but it does require a lot of sacrifice. And it may be easy for me to say, well, sure, I'll pay more for my toys and for my furniture and appliances, in the interest of, promoting human rights, basically, right? But how would I feel about imposing that decision on other people, like my neighbors, members of my community who don't have maybe the same financial means that I do? That's a tough one, right? That's a tough one. But I applaud your standing up for the Uyghurs, man. Okay. Ira saying, yeah, and all the MAGA gear is made in China. Yeah, a lot of stuff is made in China. Like, it's economics. Like, if you can get it cheaper, it's hard not to. And Daniel saying, yes, everything takes sacrifice. I feel you. Hey, look, if people want it, I mean, it's not just the Uyghurs. Like, you look at what happened to the Chinese in Hong Kong, the pro-democracy people, man. They got kind of oppressed. They got thrown in jail. They got threatened. And they were just asking for more democratic reform. And in the old days, there would be no question that the U.S. would stand for the pro-democracy folks. But, when a ton of your economy depends on this really low-cost products and manufacturing capacity, I mean, when was the last time you heard Trump talk about Hong Kong or talk about the Uyghurs? Like, he didn't. And Biden will probably do a little more than Trump, but I think he's focused on the pandemic, saving the economy, getting us back to normal, and I don't blame him. Like, in my opinion, that should take priority over China's terrible domestic treatment of its citizens. Like, I agree it's not great, but I also feel like a leader has to pick priorities. And right now, I think Biden's prioritizing the COVID response, economic recovery, and just trying to bring this country together. So with that, I'm going to say good night, nerds. And we are going to fade to black.